Hey everybody, it's Patrick Escolas with another Banyan Technology Tire Tracks podcast. I am here with Brent Hutto of Truckstop. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I got to ask you a question. Do as many people mispronounce your last name as they do mine?
I would assume so, and fortunately, my father's a physician, and I've heard it from everybody, every which way, and luckily, and I don't know if this is what led me to sales eventually,
right?
I don't care. It's better than the other derogatory nicknames that I may or may not have earned over the years.
I love it. I just realized that when you pronounce your last name, I bet people just brutalize that like they do mine. So,
it's also fantastic when someone has me in a class. This happened mostly in high school and college. I was going to a new place, and they go like, "Oh, expect someone with a Escolas." Right. And the giant Mick comes in and they go,
"There you go.
Are you this?" I'm like, that's right. Yeah.
Let me see some ID.
That's right. I'm the Irishman with Escolas. I always like to say it's Patrick Rodriguez Martinez Espadas Escolas.
I gotta get good with mine that way. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Just find some other language to say it is. Yeah, no, I like that opening. No, without talking too much about butchering my last name, Truckstop. For anybody who somehow hasn't heard of Truckstop, because you guys have been around for a long time. Yeah. Give us a reminder of what you do and what you're doing in the space.
Well, we're in the freight matching business, and if you're in trucking and you're in transportation, you know exactly what that is. But if you're not, then you kind of go, "What is that?"
You're not playing memory with the cards and flipping over and matching the shells, right?
It's kind of like Match.com where they match up guys and girls, but it's a little different. But just I guess they could swipe.
That might be the next app. What broker or what carrier are you doing?
That's probably a little too risky to do that. But no, we help spot market freight, which is about 20% of the United States freight move, which is the one-way long haul freight. So we're the data clearing in the middle, and what we do is we clean and clear all the data for the freight that moves in the marketplace, and we also clean and clear all the data on small carriers, which are the predominant carriers in the full truckload spot market, and then the brokerage industry, which is who's the predominant mover of freight for these shippers in the market. And so we allow them to transact together because we provide a safe environment where everybody meets. Well, in today's world, we provide a safe, trusted environment for them to be able to transact and move freight. And every piece of freight that moves inside the spot market is one at a time. It's not like the contract marketplace where somebody might be negotiating 500 loads or 1,000 loads. Everyone is one at a time, and it's an all-in price, and it's a day-to-day thing. So it's a lot of fun. We've been doing it for 29 years, and it's just a lot of fun because I love this industry. I love truckers. And being in logistics has been the best part of my 27-year career.
I have to say, it's coming from a few different pieces, whether it was copiers or IT coming into the logistics industry. Again, probably one of them. Just everybody you meet is completely genuine.
Right. That's the best part.
And will tell you their opinion whether or not you ask for it immediately.
Or whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that's what's great about freight. It's honest. It's one of the last really, truly grassroots, honest industries. And look, it should be. It serves every American citizen, and now it serves world citizens to help them run their lives and improve their lives. So it's a great place to be.
And it's really a no middle ground. It's either
you're all in, you're all out.
It's either you got it there or you didn't, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yep, that's right.
Now, talking about getting there, you hit on that you're dealing with both brokers and carriers.
Yeah.
And you're seeing the data in between, and probably a lot of trends.
Right.
What is, because I know that almost everyone I'm talking to on the freight supply or brokerage side, that we're all waiting for that pendulum, that magical pendulum to shift the other way. What's going on out there?
Well, that pendulum is not going to swing.
That's what.
Right, it's not. Well, here's why. All humans have a short memory, especially the ones that are in freight, because we all want it to go back to what it was in the pandemic. If you're moving freight, you were making so much money, you were thinking about where you were taking your second vacation, buying a beach house or something. So, look, that's a good problem to have, Patrick. It really is, and this industry needs it because it's a necessary provider for our country.
Sure.
But it all has to be balanced. So trucking is $1 trillion industry. Trucking freight movement is $1 trillion industry in the United States. And it's a supply and demand economy. So it has to meet its normal levels. If not, then you get things like inflation. And that's really there's two really, really big things going on inside of freight right now. One is inflation. And the other one's the F word, right? It's not the one that you might have used in high school or maybe college. It's the one that...
use it.
Well, in some cases it's appropriate, but
especially when talking to logistics people.
Sometimes, but it's fraud, and that's the sad thing about it. As marketplaces in our new internet world that we live in, the digital world, as they've moved forward to create efficiency through the use of technology, then where there are open doors and people can go and take things very easily.
People are going to do that.
Bad actors, they can do it with anonymity and not be caught. And so that, unfortunately, is the first level. And I want to talk about this. I want to talk about, you asked me to talk about the market and talk about, but let's talk specifically about.
I want to hear everything you have to say.
Yeah, so. I appreciate that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, first off, we love Banyan. We love what Banyan's doing. I want to make sure everybody knows that we're integrated with Banyan. Yeah. We appreciate how you guys serve the market, that's the part of the market that you guys do in the LTL marketplace. And
thank you very much for that.
Knew the founder, love Brian. He's doing a great job. You guys have really made a lot of strides in the last 3 or 4 years to becoming a really valuable product for the part of the market you serve. And we need great products like that. And we're integrated with you guys because of that reason. You guys are a good quality company. But so you look
I'll give you the 20 after.
That's
it's fine.
Most of it needs to be 100.
So, whoa.
Hey, inflation.
We just talked about the pendulum isn't coming back. No.
No, I want nothing.
No, go back to the F word here that we're talking about. That's what we're going to call this one. What was that? Yeah.
But no, so the biggest struggles right now are fraud in the market and then inflation in the market. So I'll talk a little bit about fraud first, because that's really sort of the first filter point going on. So as freight moves, if you looked before October of 2022, when we had the pandemic, and even when we had the good year in 2018 and a good market in 2019, and before that we had good markets, there were some struggles, and most of the struggles in our market are caused by a regulation. All right, so as the FMCSA puts out a regulation, it puts stress on capacity, and so it pinches the number of hours that are in capacity. And that's the typical thing that happens when it swings a good market. Now, for COVID, it was a little different. But the pandemic here was a little different. We had everybody staying at home. We bought a bunch of stuff, so you had 3 or 4 times as much freight to be moved and the same number of trucks. And I know,
and things weren't coming into the ports regularly.
Well, the port issue was another thing. That was more of a labor issue.
Okay.
It wasn't we got too many.
No one's out.
It was it takes 4. This is unique. I talked to the guy who runs marketing for the LA port, and I said, hey, really, what caused all that? And he said, well, most people think it was because we had too many ships coming in. Yes, certainly that caused a problem. He goes, but that's not the real problem. The problem was getting them offloaded. He said, you need 4 people for each container. We were getting 2. So
not enough stevedores?
It's just going to back up. Yeah, it's just going to back up. And he goes, we just couldn't overcome it. And so it ended up being, that was the big thing, labor. But back to the fraud thing,
I just really want an excuse to use the word stevedore.
Well, that's a really cool word.
It is.
Almost as cool as your last name. But so the fraud issue, what happened in our industry as these things started coming in, because our marketplace got so big, right? And when it came down to normal, even now, look, it was 4 times, there was 4 times as much freight to move in the market than normal, right? In a sense.
Right.
And so when you've got that much pressure, people are going to make a lot of money, and it's going to be, and people are just going to move, and they don't have to move that fast. If you're a trucking company, because there's plenty of freight for you to move.
Yeah, but you kind of pick and choose how you move it.
When freight becomes a little more scarce, or it just comes back to normal, which is what it did, and they see a good rate out there on a load in the spot market, they take it quickly.
Sure.
And the problem was, in October 2022, all these bad actors started coming in the market, and they started pretending, they started stealing identity, they started stealing the freight payment, they started stealing the loads. And so now it's gotten much more complex, because
I've heard some very egregious moves there.
The stories are terrible. And it affects the small carrier the most, because if they lose one load, it could bankrupt their business. They lose a freight payment, it kills their profit for the month.
Right.
So it's detrimental to everybody across the board. And so it's been an issue where, and this is what caused it. I heard this the other day, and I thought this was really a salient point. We in trucking were so desiring, Patrick, to want to create efficiency, to be able to maximize the capacity that we had to get the goods to market. And so we revolutionized technology. Technology was going so fast in our market.
Sprinted it.
We forgot to do one thing. We forgot to make sure we locked the front door.
Put a lock on it.
Cybersecurity. Most don't have good levels of cybersecurity. And so there's lots of open doors in the market. Big platforms like Truckstop and like Banyan have really good security. We're able to lock it down and keep most of the bad players out, and to be able to really be thoughtful about how we continue to do it. Well, most players in the market in the spot market are small players, and they don't have a big cybersecurity team. And so
they're rushing to market.
We take this serious about protecting the market. But the problem, the challenge is you've got so many freight opportunities being offered outside of a load board. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing.
No.
But the thing is that they're an email or they're a text message, and where
a lot of these opportune places.
And in the internet world, everything's connected.
Yep.
So that's the issue, is that these bad actors can go find passwords, or they can buy EMC numbers, or they can pretend to be somebody else. They can steal identities, and then they can pretend to be somebody else for a short period of time and just steal one load or one freight payment. Or they can pretend to be a carrier for 2 months and study lanes and steal 20 or 30 loads over a weekend. So there's lots of things going on.
That's a level of sophistication.
And this fraud is coming. It's not just a couple of places. It's coming from 22 different countries.
Right.
22 different countries. So it's not going to go away. We've all got to be on the alert for it. We've all got to do our part to make sure that it's being addressed. And because it's going to be, it's the first filter now in moving freight.
And what does that do to the market? Does that make it harder to pick
makes
and
it
grab
tremendously
loads, or
harder.
does it increase
think about
the price?
This. What you've done, because there's now a security layer on top of every piece of freight that moves, if it's in the spot market or if it's in some of the out of route, hard to move marketplaces, it adds a layer of having to proof data, having to spend time, having to do something. That adds cost.
Yeah.
So it takes away profit margins from every carrier, every broker, and it takes away the ability to move as quickly as they need to from a shipper standpoint. So it's a big deal. All right. Second, let's look at inflation.
Yeah.
All right. Because fraud's not going away. We're going to deal with it. Keep dealing with it. Inflation is the other thing. So inflation devalues money.
Right.
All right. So you got lots of things going on with that. You got, if there's not a lot, if there's devaluing of money and money can't be lent, then companies can't invest in new opportunities.
Absolutely.
And so it stagnates growth in the marketplace, because most people, when they're really going to do something meaningful, when they're going to do something meaningful, if they have a good company and they've got good capital and they've got good cash flow in their business and they show a profit, you want to go borrow the money, because you can borrow it typically inexpensively, not necessarily in a high inflationary period, but it slows down the ability for the marketplace to grow.
Okay.
So that's a big issue. Now that's one issue. Now just the cost of goods and the cost of things for small carriers makes it even harder, because they're very small operations. So it costs more for tires, it costs more for fuel, it costs more for the food that they eat, it costs more. Their operation goes up and up. And
everything goes up.
And then the prices in the marketplace, the rates in the marketplace have been down. So those two
you're
things,
paying more, but you're not getting paid more.
Those two things have been the biggest sort of heartburns going on in our market, because neither one of them add $1 of profit opportunity. None of them. So
it's all cut margin.
So it's a bit of a challenge. But the marketplace it came back down to normal, Patrick, in 2023.
Okay.
And it stayed normal, and it's staying normal.
Okay, so we're still in the normal?
And it's staying normal.
All right.
So the issue is inflation makes the prices it makes them not where they need to be. But because they should be 20 or 30 cents higher across the board, dry van, flatbed, refrigerated, the three dominant segments, in order for real profit to be gained by small carriers and even middle-sized carriers. And so the whole marketplace is coming to a point where the prices should start to inflect back up, because we don't have a freight recession, okay?
Right.
We have a pricing recession. All right, so the rates in the marketplace went down to really marginal levels, even on the contract side, and so that's kind of where the marketplace is sitting right now. Plenty of freight's being moved.
Right.
We don't have. As a matter of fact, we've got above trend in freight. So we've been tracking it for about 40 years.
Okay.
And our chief economist Noah Perry does an excellent job in really tracking the freight projection and then what's the actuals. And we've been above trend for the last 20 months.
Well, that's awesome.
It's been fantastic, but rates are low. What's been below trend is rates, and that's the big issue going on the market.
So we're moving more and getting less out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So
what do we do? Or
well,
let's. What's the answer?
So, the answer is just to keep doing, just to
keep carrying on,
keep moving freight, and so because as my dad used to say, this too will pass.
Right.
Because we're in a market that's required for an economy to work. All the goods have to get there. And so just keep doing it. And what we encourage small carriers to do, especially the ones that work in the spot market with us, is know your marketplace. Know where there are trends in different marketplaces where you can get 10% more or 20% more. So know where things are moving, because everything moves geographically.
Kind of find your sweet spot.
Find your sweet spot, or where the sweet spot is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
move to it if you got to.
And so that's for carriers. For brokers in the marketplace, really what's going on now with brokers is just finding the right freight for margins that they can move. Yeah.
Okay.
And what's going on now is to find efficiencies, they want more technology.
Right.
Technology like yours, technology like ours. We need to continue to create efficiency in it that allows them to be able to do more with what they have. All right.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to hire more employees.
If you're not making more margin,
they're not going to hire.
And cash is expensive.
And what's been interesting is if you look at every major publicly owned fleet, and I just saw 3 privately owned fleets 2 days ago talk about this. They're all cutting cost, and they just say, well, we're trimming down. We're getting more efficient with our resources. What they're saying is we're cutting cost.
Right.
And we're kind of to the point with a lot of fleets where they're cutting a bit of muscle. It's not just the fat; it's the muscle that they're cutting. So that's been a difficult thing, but they're going to do what they can do to be efficient with their operations, and they're going to be very, very selective on the freight that they choose to move because they've got to be able to make a margin on it.
And what does that mean for someone trying to move freight that doesn't have this freight that people want to pick be in this opportunity or not opportunistic time?
Yeah. Well, what it means is it's a good time to work on relationships.
There's never a bad time.
It's a better time to work on relationships. That's a good way to put it.
Fair enough.
It's a better time to work on relationships. It's a opportunity where there's disruption. There's always opportunity.
Okay.
And so the idea is how do you find where the operation ratio for your business needs to be, and whether you're a 1 truck operation or whether you're a 10,000 truck operation, you need to pay attention to what you can control, which is cost. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure you're choosing the right freight to move, whether it's through in the LTL marketplace, which has been a unique market because the exit of yellow from the U.S. market, there's been a little lift there and the pricing's been good, but now it's beginning to kind of come back down to a little bit more normal because all supply and demand marketplaces seek balance. If they don't, it's a problem. So it's been really unique in what's going on in the market. What's been also really cool, Patrick, is to watch what shippers have been doing.
Yeah.
So shippers, because this was a really unique comment on stage. There were 3 very, very large class 1 shippers that were on the stage that were talking, and they said, we're actually shipping more on less trucks. And I went, how do you ship more on less trucks?
Are they just cramming it in better?
During the pandemic, they needed to get goods to market so desperately. They were short shipping trucks. If it was 75% full, send it out the door.
They're paying for air.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Paying for air.
It's a Lay's bag of chips.
Yeah, and so I like potato chips.
Yeah,
it's good.
Who doesn't?
I'm a Doritos guy too. I like
still the same. That's still Frito Lay's. That's all good.
That's right. But so shippers are shipping the same or higher volumes on fewer trucks because they're beginning to maximize the trucks because there's more capacity available right now. So they have more what's known as leverage. They have more leverage in the market. Whoever has the greatest leverage sort of wins it. And so they're able to use less trucks, less providers, less trucks, because they can maximize their shipments. And they're carrying less inventory today, although not a whole lot less, because they still remember the pandemic when they couldn't get goods manufactured, and that'll ruin a manufacturing company, right? If you don't have goods to sell to your customers. So it's been interesting to see that. And there's still, this is another thing that I thought was really interesting. You know, there's always ebbs and flows of what's important to in any industry. The shipper industry, all you heard about all through prior to the pandemic and a little bit in the pandemic is visibility. We want to know where our freight is. But guess what? All 3 of them said, oh yeah, no, that's still the big deal.
Right. I still want to know.
We still want to know where that is. And so when you look at these sort of challenges, and whether you're a carrier or whether you're a broker or whether you're a shipper in this marketplace, everybody has different challenges going on, and it'll all come back to how well you're able to service things through efficiency.
Right.
And this is why you need a TMS. This is why you need a scale.
Technology helps.
Technology is not the solution. It's just part of the solution.
Gotcha.
All right. It's required in this world to be part of the solution. And if you're not investing in it heavily, and now is the time to do it. Down markets are a time to invest in things that you can take the time to purchase, integrate in, get your people used to using it so you can maximize it, because it's all a learning curve. Every piece of it is. And be able to maximize it when freight begins to come back up.
And isn't that a bit of a hard sell though?
Like, it can be, because everyone's like, no, just don't spend money. Don't spend money.
Tough. Give us some money. We'll make it better, right?
Yeah. But when is it most expensive to buy technology?
When it's at the peak, when it's popular.
When your profit engine is running at its peak, because it costs you the most time on your profit engine because you're able to maximize your profit. You're
changing your process too.
Your lowest cost to buy technology, even though it's a challenging time, is now. Because the marketplace is slow enough where you can actually get it integrated, and get it useful to your business. And then when the market comes back up, you can take advantage of that marketplace that comes back. I mean, it sounds a little funny, but it's not.
No, it makes sense. You don't change your swing on the tee. You change it at the driving range.
Amen to that.
Right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That makes a lot of sense. And within that, how is Truckstop, how are you positioning yourself to I know fight fraud, our fun F word there, but then position carriers, brokers, and even shippers to, I don't know, say get ahead of inflation, but deal with it.
Right. Well, and that's the question to ask for us. And I appreciate you asking it. So it's for us on the fraud end, we have a company called we have a product called RMIS that we bought back in 2020, and it was the
familiar with that.
It was the industry leading onboarding and insurance monitoring company, and did a phenomenal job. But it was never built to be a fraud product because fraud wasn't a problem. Right? Well, fraud's a problem now. Yeah. And there's other really good technologies that are in the industry too that are helping with this. But we're connected to freight at Truckstop. Right? And we're connected to a lot of small players that move freight, so we have to protect them. So we have spent the last 24 months really building a lot of high-level ways in which to leverage the data that we have on the market to identify if it's a legitimate carrier, if it's a potentially not a legitimate carrier, if it's not a legitimate broker.
Pop-ups to say, hey, do due diligence?
All these different things that say, are these bad acts? First off, to keep them out of our system.
Okay.
All right, second off, to keep them out of the customer system, keep them out of the broker's core carrier network, or to keep them keep that broker
the general pool
and the general pool, because we have a pool. RMS is very fortunate. We have an industry leading amount of data on carriers. It's over 350,000 carrier accounts that are monitored and looked at. Yeah, no, it's a crazy number.
That's a crazy number.
But with that, we're able to look at a tremendous amount of data on the marketplace, and so we use all that. We've built several products. First thing with our product itself, and everybody, if you own a platform that's technology. If you're not using multi-factor authentication, you got an open door.
100%.
To the back. If you're not using identity, you got an open door. So you got to make sure that you are closing those doors as much as possible, and then using the data to leverage it in a very fast manner, because it has to be quick, because the decisions have to be made fast.
Yeah.
To be able to keep the bad players out and to help the good players be able to move freight quickly.
And distinguish themselves from those bad players.
Yeah, so we've done that on fraud, and then it's just our system itself. We just continue to build out the products on a rating platform. We've got a great AI platform called Rate Insights that helps on the ratings for all size players.
It's awesome.
And just to continue to build capacity in the marketplace where the freight can move as fast as possible. So we're always working on it because we have to. Yeah.
Right. And is that something that we said fraud's going to stay here and it's not going to go anywhere. We're going to get better at fighting at it and recognizing it. Where do you see the next 6 months to 12 months of going? Are we still going to be dealing with the same inflation? Is there going to be a new problem?
What are the trends?
Yeah, exactly.
So here's
Get your crystal ball out.
Yeah, kind of like my head. So, but what I would tell you is this: is that just get comfortable where you are right now.
Okay.
If you're a carrier, or a broker, or a shipper using those as transportation providers, just get comfortable where you are, because there'll be some, if you're a carrier, there'll be some price increases, because if you're on the spot market, because the price has been at the bottom of the curve, all right? And it's going to come up some, not just seasonality with the holiday season, but it's going to come up some. So it'll be slow though. And here's why.
Okay. Hang in there.
We thought the pandemic was going to be 2 weeks, right? We were going to stay at home 2 weeks and just hang out.
I do remember that first announcement.
Binge watch a bunch of movies and stuff.
Yep.
2 weeks turned into 2 years.
Yeah, it did.
So, but we had an extremely large economic expansion in freight where everybody made a tremendous amount of great returns. In any supply and demand cycle, if you've got a 2-year expansion, guess what you're going to have on the other side of the curve?
A dip
you're
or a slide down.
You're going to have, and I'm not saying they're not exact, but what you get is you're going to have a 2-year cycle down. Well, we're about to end the 2-year cycle.
Okay.
So what it will do is it'll balance back out to certainty, and then
a certain point.
If you're in freight, just pay attention to what the FMCSA and the EPA talk about when it comes to regulations, because those regulations are what cause capacity challenges in our marketplace. If you look at if you look at what ELDs did, that caused 2018.
Yep.
There was some hours of service stuff that caused 2003. All right, so all these things that go into the capacity crisis, just look at regulations. What do we have coming at us? Well, presently we have the Drug and Alcohol Clearing Warehouse that's taken over, I think, 250,000 drivers out of the market. Now that's out of 3.6 million pools. So, but it'll continue to be meaningful. That's one thing.
It'll have an effect.
Look at what EPA is doing to regulations in trucks and where things can be run. California is always a challenging place. Different other states have this. What's going on with AB5 or the independent contractor law? That could change things dramatically. But the big one out there that everyone's going, I just hope they don't really think about it. I hope that one doesn't pass the speed limiters. Because
what's this one? Well, I don't know this one.
It's basically a way to create better safety on the highways by slowing trucks down.
Isn't that what speed limits are?
Well, speed limits are posted for people to watch, and so, but
they're just suggestions, right?
With a speed limiter is a governance thing on the engine.
Okay,
it won't go faster than whatever you govern it at. So there's some talk around speed limiters, and if that happens, it's likely to drive rates higher than they were in the pandemic.
Is that
because you're going to have an instant reduction in hours of service.
That's exactly.
Now, it'll help safety, no doubt.
Right.
It'll help efficiency of the truck, because if you're getting 6.5 miles a gallon, you're going to get 7.5 or 8 miles because you've slowed the truck way down. Because that's the number one way to create fuel efficiency, the biggest cost for a trucker.
Right.
So you just watch what's going on with the FMCSA and regulations. Pay attention. Keep your eyes open. Most important thing. Number 2, watch what's going on with the EPA, because diesel particulate emissions became a real thing. And all of the EPA stuff the levels that they brought through in the early 2000s, and so that's not going to stop, because having cleaner air is important. It happens 100%, and truckers want that too.
Right.
But not at the cost of not having trucks. So
exactly.
So there's a lot of things, and by the way, that also increases the cost of trucks.
More demand for newer trucks.
The estimation is that the new EPA proposed requirements will put another $30,000 of cost in a truck. Now, we already had a $30,000 increase in the last round.
Yeah.
So trucks went from 90 to 120, 130. Now they're going to go to 160, 170, 180.
And then there's all those small carriers that just got into the business on a used truck or something that's no longer really viable.
Well, so they're still viable. They're still viable for a while. Some states want to let you run past a certain year
kind of grandfather clause,
the year of the engine.
Okay.
So it's always the year of the engine, and but you can still run them for quite a while.
All right.
So I'd say expect more of the same for the next 6 months.
All right.
And then just keep paying attention. And this is the big thing. So when you hear economists, or you hear analysts, or you hear big trucking companies say, we think it's going to be 2 quarters from now. You know what that means? Nobody knows.
Right.
We don't really know. We just, we're just kind of hoping what's going to go on. So, but the idea, here's the good thing is, everybody needs freight. Everybody needs a truck to get it there.
And that's not changing.
And so our jobs aren't going away. We just got to make sure we're efficient enough to be profitable at it.
Hey, Brent, thank you so much for all the
insight.
It's great to be on.
I appreciate you,
it.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for everybody watching here. Wish you were here at Connect 24 in Cleveland. This has been Patrick Skolis for another Banyan Tire Tracks podcast, and we'll see you next time.